Daybreak here on the Rise News. Time for the press preview. A first look at what's on the front pages as they arrive. Let's take a look at our sister publication this day and see what the headline is this morning. Concerns mount over governor's moves to rig Saturday's polls by all means. Tension high in rivers Edo, Enugu, Kano, Katsina and Cross River. That leading photo there at the Commonwealth dinner hosted by King Charles. You have His Majesty Olu of Warri Kingdom with his Olori at the Commonwealth dinner in London yesterday. Just above that, Delta decides for Guber candidate debate. Oboru Baji Pella of Fairhead promised good governance, quality education, employment and security. Above the nameplate of this day this morning from Zainab Ahmed, federal government to abolish petrol subsidy before May 29 attributes delay to 2023 elections and the census.
The Punch newspaper is leading with the money. New Naira pains persist despite fresh CBN orders. Queues, chaos in banking halls as scarcity worsens. Private sector blames Naira crisis for inflation surge. Parties warn INEC against Beaver's problems repeat. Fuel consumption hits 80 million litres daily.
All right, Daily Sun. Election materials, INEC, PDP reach truce on inspection. Opposition party withdraws suit against commission. LP lawyers continue inspection of materials. Atiku urges electorate to vote massively for PDP on Saturday, says all hope not lost. Below that, APC leadership, crisis festers. Omishore, Lukman fight dirty. And then top there, litigation, where were you? Onaza tells OB, well, this has to do with what we talked about yesterday in Sun, that Onaza is talking about who from the North Southeast will be the Senate President. All right, Guber polls, INEC begins distribution of sensitive materials nationwide. FG shifts population census to May. Fuel subsidy, government yet to harmonize discussions on palliatives. That's coming from Abba. Again, 10 killed in Zango, Qatar. That's for the Sun.
The Guardian, Nigeria. At 21.91%, inflation sets new high amid currency crisis. And just above that, 10 killed, others injured in fresh southern Kaduna attack. More on page 29.
The international papers now. This is the Financial Times. Swiss Central Bank offers to support Credit Suisse after shares plunge.
All right, that is the picture there. Rishi Sunak, the Prime Minister, congratulating the Chancellor after delivering his speech yesterday. Slashed inflation to 2.9%, scrapped pension pot caps, extended free, scrapped pension pot caps, extended free child care. That's for the Independent.
All right, moving to newspaper. Stealth 4p rise in income tax with 6 million facing squeeze. You have Britain's tax burden climbing to a new record high since the Second World War.
And The Guardian says, giveaway for the 1%. Pension change in Hunt budget puts wealthiest in line for enormous tax cut. And public services basically ignored and face implausibly tight spending.
Right. I hope we'll have Emmanuel Bello here for the press preview. Let's bring in Emmanuel Bello. Emmanuel, good to have you. Good morning, and thanks for joining us. Let's start with our sister publication. Concerns mount over governor's moves to rig Saturday's polls by all means, and he has just a rider. Tensions are high in Rivers, Enugu, Katsina, Cross River State. I mean, this is one of the news there. And then that picture of the Olu of Warri and the wife at Prince Charles's, I think it was, dinner in London. All right, then you have Ahmed, FG to abolish petrol subsidy before May 29 attributes delay in 2023 elections and the census. And of course, there is the Delta Decides for Cuba candidates debate. Take a peek, Emmanuel, on the ones you want to preview this morning. Looks like we've lost connection with Emmanuel. When we do get him back, we will continue with that. But Nkechi and Kenneth, concerns are mounting, that's according to this day, over Governor's moves to rig Saturday's polls by all means. If that is the case, do you suppose that the fact that quite some governors lost elections in the past NAS assembly elections, you're talking about Bagudu of Kebbi State, Ugwanya of Enugu State, there is Lalong, the DG PCC of APC, he lost his own election to the Senate, and even Taraba's governor, Ishaku Darius, he also lost.
Yes, Indy, I think this election has shown that truly the voices of the people actually counts, and it's put so many people sort of a bit more cautious. And this report coming from this day, with 48 hours to the governorship and state houses of assembly elections, just brings a lot of concerns to have this sort of report so close to an election where the electoral body, where the citizens, where other stakeholders, even observers have been saying, look, we need this election to go way better than the presidential elections. So to have this concerns of hiding alleged moves by governors to rig the elections by really any means possible is quite disturbing. And I just hope that the security authorities or people that have been put in place to protect people's votes, to make sure that people can vote and be secure and safe on Saturday, will be on alert and be able to mitigate any of these allegations. Emmanuel Bello, I think we have him back. Emmanuel, we're just talking about this report on this day about concerns that some governors are planning to rig massively on Saturday. What are your thoughts?
Well, yeah, the report is saying governors, but as a matter of fact, from feelers and from what I'm hearing in some quarters, it's also, members of the opposition who are actually thinking that they could rig, and it's a serious concern. But yes, governors probably because they run their states, they're in charge of facilities that could help them rig as it were. But certainly too, in some states, the opposition's reports coming from those quarters also shows that everybody thinks that it's a game that they could play. But at the heart of it all is INEC, and I think that's the biggest concern. When people look at the presidential election, they worry a lot about what INEC can do and cannot do, because a lot of people believe that the story of 2 weeks ago, the presidential election, was about this INEC, this umpire that is supposed to be transparent, that's supposed to be, that's supposed to be very, very balanced in the way it's doing its things, and especially because of the scientific mode of what is going to happen. In the early days, we were all hopeful that, look, this is going to be scientific, so nobody needs to worry. It's like walking to your bank, depositing your money, and then, of course, you can go home, rest assured. But it is also a system that a lot of people think can be compromised, especially with what transpired in the presidential election. So people worry about hacking, people worried about falsification of figures. In the This Day account, it's very graphic, very detailed in what people suspect could happen. Others think it's going to be, the governors using their undue influence to compromise the INEC, the RECs, the resident electoral commissioners in the states, to help them change it. But the consolation here is that a lot of campaigns are really ready to monitor their elections, with agents all over the place to monitor. And this is a very simple thing to do because science itself has made it so easy for you to be able to monitor closely results coming from the actual site of elections to their uploading. So I wonder at what point, if there's going to be close supervision, at what point those those manipulations are going to happen. But yes, the concerns are there, and it's not just concerns from from the governor's side. It's the fact that even some opposition are actually ready to do same. So it's going to be interesting to see how everyone polices or monitors their those results, because at the end of the day it has to come to that. It has to be intense monitoring, policing, and following the results from the time anybody casts those results to the time they're uploaded and to the place of announcement. So it is this close monitoring that some people have adopted to say that, look, they forestall anything that'll come. But at the heart of it, like I say, is the leadership, the kind of leadership INEC plans to provide this Saturday. People saying that it is another opportunity for Professor Mahmoud, to rewrite his name or to rewrite the narratives that he's not done a very good job in the presidential poll. So a lot of people are hoping that INEC will, rise up to the occasion and do the right thing.
Eyes are on Lagos, Edo, River State. Some have got their eyes on Anambra State. Emmanuel, do you expect the turnout to be different from the presidential election? What's your expectation?
Yes, I know of a state where the turnout is going to be really huge here, with people planning to travel massively to go defend their votes and to really do so. For turnouts, yes, I see a situation where, because the presidential election, if anything, Kenneth, has been the litmus test, and it's opened the eyes of so many people. It was a wake-up kind of call for some people that, look, if they don't monitor their elections, I think there were a lot of hopes that INEC would do such a fantastic job, having given everybody those reassurances. But the presidential polls, they don't show that, look, those assurances meant anything. So in this state election, a lot of people are really moving out to see that they protect their votes. A lot of people are going to watch the process very closely. Yes, there's going to, I see a situation where there will be massive turnout because people just want to get this right. They believe the presidential election did not go the way it should go, but then this like second chance, this like second opportunity. So all the mistake in the first, experiment or in the first show will be corrected now. So you're going to see a lot of excitement, a lot of turnout. You're going to see people doing their best to ensure that their votes count.
Before we go to the other papers, this is still quite interesting. Talking about abolishing petrol subsidy. I'm just seeing the riders now. Quite interesting riders that it has. Says urges incoming administration to raise VAT to 10%. Ghana faces out petrol subsidy. It looks like we're following behind. FG were yet to harmonize position on palliatives after subsidy removal, which is very important. Approves Nigeria's Agenda 50, and then population census now on hold in May. That of Ghana removing subsidy, and of course Nigeria trying to harmonize palliatives before it can go on with that. Look at those riders, Emmanuel.
Well, it's interesting because we're having a new date now, that those subsidies will be removed before May, May 29th. So we're going to see. But what concerns so many now is the current situation where you have those long queues and nobody seems to know what's happening. You don't know whether it is at the level of marketers. I don't know whether the removal of subsidy is going to really change situations. But I think early in the week, marketers were telling us that we have to live, or the government was telling us that Nigerians will have to live longer, just a little bit longer, with these long queues and this crisis of petrol. It's the tripartite problem that we're facing in this country. One is the election, the other is fuel, and the third one is the cash crunch. Stories that are also in all the papers this morning.
Yes, Emmanuel, do you want to talk more on that cash crunch? We know now that banks have been instructed to dish out those old notes. However, they're saying, look, by the end of yesterday, they didn't have enough old notes to even give to the customers. And some people are saying the CBN has, yes, they've instructed the banks to give out old notes, but they're not supplying those old notes to the banks as well. And you also have this issue of Nigerian citizens being wary of accepting old notes as well.
Well, I think to some extent people are actually comfortable with, receiving them or using them as legal tenders. The problem is, Nkechi, is the one you just raised. That is availability, the fact that it's not just there, so people can have access to what, can use what they don't have access to. So that's a huge challenge on one hand. But the bigger picture for me in all of this is the fact that, look, we went through all of that. We had those redesigning of the notes. Just think of the amount used for all of that, and then look at the hardship of all had to endure. And you ask yourself, to what end? To what's the purpose of all this? We are going back to the old notes. It shows serious disconnect, and this government that has not done very well is buying out in infamy, if you ask me. And it's just a case of buying out in a very terrible way. When this whole thing started, Nigerians were prepared to actually bear with it and say, okay, fine, if it is to usher in a better, because there were talks about you don't want to do any vote buying and all of that. And that's why you have the redesigning of these narratives. But so when you look back now, with all the struggle, the current frustration, you ask yourself, why did we have to endure everything? What has changed? What has this done to us? And I think that's the bigger story to ask ourselves: what really changed? What happened? How did we gain? Did the Naira gain? Did we gain as a people? Because the hardship just deepened, and the buy-in was there, that is to stop vote buying and the rest. But I don't think we've really achieved anything. And I think for many Nigerians, as we grapple with the crisis of scarcity and everything, we're also asking ourselves, what was it all about? Why did they have to go through all this stress if it was not going to lead to some better outcomes, for instance, in the last presidential election, or even if it's not helping the economy? The story in the Guardian newspaper suggests that the inflation has deepened and that nothing has really changed. A lot of people, in fact, the experts are saying that part of the crisis of the inflation is because of this, because of the design, because of the scarcity of Naira. You have this skyrocketing of prices of foodstuff and the rest. So, why did we go through all that change, all that stress, if we are going to go back to the old? It's not a case of all things have passed away, behold, all things are now new. We are back to the old, and Nkechi, between the four of us here, we wonder if it was worth the effort at all.
Let's leave it, Emmanuel. Thank you so much. That's the press preview. Let's hear from you. Follow us on Twitter @ArisTV, and you can stream live at arise.tv.